Hey AP. In this video or series of videos, we're going to be building a basic notebook style program. And we're going to do this to demonstrate how classes work again, and just to let me do some more, I guess, in-depth discussion while we're not under the time crunch of a 30-minute lecture. I'm going to be building this class here in VS Code, and I hope that you find it interesting. There's a lot of options. Like, I always get really excited when we talk about classes because you can model so much, and it's really, that creative act is really fun. Like realizing, oh, I'm really into this thing, and I can model classes in a program based off this thing I care about. At the same time, like I know you don't necessarily like what I like, so a notebook is a good general thing that will let us look at the basics, and then when we start to do a little more in-depth stuff, I'll show you some examples that I might make just personally that I would find interesting. I really want to do like a Dota 2 example. But I think that like some of the details would get lost on people that have no idea what I'm even talking about. So yeah, we're gonna build a notebook. Let's get started. Okay. The first thing that I'm going to do is make a folder within, let's see, I think it's my stuff where I keep my stuff. Yep. I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to make a folder here called notebook example. And you don't have to do this. It's just because when we work with classes, sometimes we'll end up with lots of files. In real coding projects, we have tons of files, like hundreds, thousands of files. So it's a good practice just to get used to kind of organizing things. And I know you're going to be using Replit, and that's fine. You can make files and folders on Replit as well. Let's just start with our notebook class, which we're going to call notebook.py, and we will go from here. All right. Okay, so I'm going to kind of do this in a hybrid planning, not too much planning way, because maybe that'll simulate more like what you're going to do, and we'll go through like some questions and thoughts together, and I'll try to just speak out loud as I do it, and hopefully we won't make this too long. So first of all, we have to define our blueprint for our notebook, and notebook will be its own class, and all classes must have an init method, which we have talked about before in class. It is what allows the instance of the class to access its own data. So let's think about what a notebook would have. I think it would have an owner, so someone's notebook, you know, it belongs to them. It's going to have entries in our notebook, so we're going to have like what we write on the pages, you know. What else would it have? I guess we could do like num pages. How many pages are in the notebook? Okay, I think that's good. That's all I can think of for now. So we'll say that the owner that will be tied to whatever instance is going to be the owner I give it. Self.entries will be the entries. So more than likely, when we create a new notebook, there won't be any entries in that notebook, and there'll all be blank pages. So how do we represent blank pages in Python? Well, for now, I'm going to have an empty list. Because if I say entries, that means more than one thing, and a list is the most basic form of that. So let's start there. And num pages will be num pages. We could always give that a default value, but we'll just stick with this. Okay. Well, now that I can initialize one, let's go ahead and run this and give it a try here. So why not? All right, so let's do Python interactive notebook.py, and we will create a new notebook, and that will be notebook. The owner will be Quincy. Entries by default is none. Oh, I should have just, let's see, I should have done this. Entries is an empty list. Okay, we need it. We'll restart this then. Okay, well, let's try that again. New notebook. And then we don't need to do any... Oh, shoot. Oh, see, I keep making mistakes, but that's good. I should have just paid attention to what I had there, and then I wouldn't have run into this issue. As you can see, I've got a syntax error, and that's because optional arguments. So when I say entries equals empty list in my parameters, that means that this by default, if I don't pass in an argument, will be an empty list. But in order to do that and use it, I have to put it at the end of my parameters. I can't have that. That's the order that our parameters must go in. All right, let's try one more time. We've got owner, num pages, entries, which is an empty list by default. I think we got it this time. All right, so we'll say new notebook. This is notebook. And then owner is Quincy. Num pages is 25. This is a small notebook. Okay, so then if I look at new notebook, I'm going to get this weird thing at memory address. We're going to fix that with a repr method. I say new notebook owner, or ower, one or the other. Quincy, new notebook dot num pages. Cool, new notebook dot, can I do math with it? Minus equal 1. Oh, I just realized you guys could not see my math. Let me scoot up a little bit. There's my math. Okay, sorry. I did do some math there. I just have this zoomed in a little bit so you can see it better. Okay, so I got to remember that. Anyway, the repr method is what will show when I type in new notebook, and this is useful in a lot of different contexts, but we typically want to have something other than that weird memory address there. So we'll just say return. What's a good thing to return here? We'll say owner's notebook. Got a contraction in there, or a contraction. No, it's not a contraction. It's just an apostrophe S. It's possession. I'm possessed. Okay. Owner, and just in case they forget to title their name, we can do that too. Owner.titles notebook with num pages. Yeah. Okay, we'll save this. We'll run it again. Maybe I should just make this whole little area smaller. I'll do that for the next video. New notebook. We'll do this again. Notebook. Let's see. 25 pages. New notebook. What did I do wrong? Oh, no. Okay, well, that's good for you to see, too. All right, so notice I used owner.title and num pages here. I totally forgot that when you are using the data from within the class, you need to say self. So self.owner.title and self.numPages. Okay, now I should have a working init method and a working repr method. I'm glad you get to see me make all these mistakes, because maybe you won't make as many. But if you do, that's okay. It's good to make mistakes. You know, sometimes I wonder, what the heck? Oh, I'm not even in Python. Whoops. Okay. You know, sometimes I wonder, these videos that people, these tutorials that people put out, it's kind of like seeing someone's picture on Instagram. You know that that's not the only picture they took. They took lots of pictures of themselves, and they chose the best one to put on Instagram. And I wonder the same thing about these tutorials where everything's just perfect. Like, why not choose, you know, they don't do that. Well, never mind, that's a long story. But Oh, this is what I wanted to do. Yeah, there we go. So Quincy's notebook with 25 pages now shows up instead of that weird memory address thing. So we have an init method, we've got a repr method. In the next video, we're going to add some more interesting methods than these boilerplate things. Yeah, I'll see you then.